Within just 6 short years, the Social Security Trust Fund is projected to be completely depleted. And when that happens, the average retiree will face an automatic reduction in their Social Security benefit of roughly 24%. Let that number sink in for a moment. A 24% pay cut affecting more than 70 million people simultaneously. Can you imagine the financial pressure that would place on those individuals and the ripple effect it would send through the entire United States economy? To address this looming solvency crisis, there are numerous ideas and proposals currently circulating throughout the various branches of our federal government. One of the ideas gaining serious attention is known as the 6-figure limit, sometimes called the benefit cap. In this video, I am going to explain exactly how this particular proposal would work, and most importantly, who it would actually affect. Why is a cap on Social Security being proposed in the first place? Before we get into the specifics of the proposal, I want to make sure we all understand why this conversation is happening at all. Think of Social Security as being supported by 2 separate buckets, 2 distinct trust funds. The first is called OASI, Old Age and Survivors Insurance. This is the fund that pays retirement and survivor benefits. The second is the DI, Disability Insurance Trust Fund, which covers people who become disabled before they reach retirement age. Now, how do money flows into these 2 funds? The primary source of revenue is payroll taxes, what most people know as FICA taxes or self-employment taxes. If you work for an employer, 6.2% of every dollar you earn up to the taxable wage cap, which in 2026 is $184,500, is subject to Social Security taxes. Your employer matches that contribution dollar for dollar. If you are self-employed, you pay the full combined rate of 12.4% yourself. This payroll tax revenue is the dominant funding source for both trust funds. Roughly 85 cents of every dollar collected flows into the OASI fund, while the remaining 15 cents goes into the Disability Insurance Fund. The second source of revenue is income taxes paid on Social Security benefits. About half of all Social Security recipients do not pay any income tax on their benefits. The other half do, depending on their total income. And just to be clear, no one ever pays income tax on 100% of their Social Security benefit. The maximum taxable portion is 85%. But that taxation on benefits does generate meaningful revenue, currently around $50 billion annually, split between the 2 trust funds using the same 85-15 formula. The third source is interest income. Right now, both trust funds hold significant reserves, roughly $2.5 trillion between them, invested in U.S. Treasury securities. Those securities generate interest income, which flows back into both funds, again following the same 85-15 split. So that is how money comes in. The problem is straightforward. More money is now flowing out in benefits than is coming in through all of these revenue sources combined. If nothing changes, no reform, no adjustment, no new legislation, the OASI Trust Fund is projected to be depleted by approximately 2033. That is just over 6 years from now. The Disability Insurance Trust Fund is actually in stronger shape, with projections suggesting it remains solvent through 2090. But here is the complicating factor. Congress has historically moved money between the 2 trust funds when needed, essentially borrowing from the DI fund to prop up OASI, because while Social Security cannot borrow from the open market, it can transfer between its own internal funds. If Congress were to do that again, the combined system would be depleted by roughly 2035. That is the core problem. That is why all of these reform proposals are on the table. A cash flow crisis is approaching, and the clock is already ticking. Who would actually be affected by the benefit cap? Now let us get to the heart of what most people really want to understand. Who would the proposed 6-figure limit actually impact? To answer that properly, I need to walk you through something called the PIA formula. PIA stands for Primary Insurance Amount. the technical term for the benefit you receive if you claim Social Security at your exact full retirement age. For some people, full retirement age is 66. For anyone born in 1960 or later, it is 67. This is your baseline benefit, the number the formula is designed to calculate. Here is how the formula works. First, Social Security looks at your top 35 years of earnings throughout your career. If you only worked 30 years, they include 5 years of zeros in the calculation. Every year counts whether you earned something or nothing. Those historical earnings are then indexed upward for inflation. Your wages from 20 years ago get adjusted to reflect today's dollars. This indexing applies up through the year you turn 60. Earnings from age 61 forward are not indexed. They are used at their actual nominal value. Once those 35 years are indexed and totaled, the result is divided by 420 months, which is 35 years multiplied by 12. This produces what is called your AME, your average indexed monthly earnings. This is a critical number because it is the actual figure the benefit formula is applied to. Then, Social Security applies what are called bend points to your AIME. These are percentage tiers that determine how much of each portion of your AIME translates into your actual monthly benefit. In 2026, those bend points work like this. You receive 90% of the first $1,186 of your AIME, then 32% of everything above $1,286 up to $7,549, then 15% of anything above $7,549. The result of applying those bend points to your AIME is your primary insurance amount, your full retirement age benefit. Now let us apply this to two very different real-world earners to understand who the proposed cap would and would not actually affect. Example 1, the average earner. An average earner, someone who has had a solid working career but not an exceptionally high income one, would typically have an AIME of approximately $5,000 per month. Applying the bend points, 90% of the first 1,286 produces 1,057s. Then 32% of the difference between 1,287 and $5,000, which is 3,113s, produces $1,180. And since this person's earnings do not exceed the $7,150 threshold, the third bend point contributes nothing. Total monthly benefit at full retirement age, approximately $2,340. Multiply that by 12 months, and you get an annual Social Security benefit of roughly $28,140. That is comfortably below the proposed single-filer cap of $50,000 per year. The bottom line for average earners, the proposed cap would have absolutely zero impact on them, not even close. The vast majority of American retirees fall into this category and would be completely unaffected by this particular proposal. Example 2. The high earner. Now let us look at a high earner, someone who has consistently earned near or at the taxable wage cap throughout their career. This type of earner would typically have an AIME of approximately $14,000 per month. Applying the bend points, 90% of the first 1,286 still produces 1,157. Then 32% of the full range from 1,287 to $7,149 produces 2,068. And now the third tier activates. 15% of everything from $7,950 up to $14,000 contributes $938. Total monthly benefit at full retirement age, approximately $4,163. Multiply that by 12 months, just under $50,000 annually. That puts even a very high earner just barely below the proposed single filer cap of $50,000 per year. So here is the key takeaway at this point. Even for genuinely high earners, the proposed cap barely applies, if at all, at current full retirement age benefit levels. The highest Social Security check currently being paid in 2026. Let me walk through one more example that I think puts this all into sharp perspective. The situation of the person currently receiving the largest Social Security benefit being paid out in 2026. This individual was born in January 1956. Their full retirement age was 66 and 4 months, which means they reached full retirement age in May of 2022. At that point, their annual benefit was $47,000. But here is what happened. Instead of claiming at full retirement age, they chose to delay. For every year you delay claiming Social Security beyond your full retirement age, your benefit grows by 8%. This is simple interest, not compounded, but it is a powerful growth mechanism. Delaying 1 year grew their benefit by 8%, bringing the annual amount to $50,000. Delaying another year added another 8% to the original full retirement age benefit, pushing the annual total to approximately $54,000. A third year of delay added 24% cumulatively, bringing it to roughly $58,400. And then claiming at 70, the maximum delay point, with the full 32% increase applied, their annual benefit reached approximately $61,800. That is the largest Social Security check being issued in 2026. Now here is where the cap comes into the picture. Under the proposed six-figure limit, the single filer cap starts at $50,000 and also grows at 8% per year, mirroring the delayed retirement credit structure. So the cap itself was $50,000 when this person first hit it, grew to $54,000, then $58,000, then $62,000, essentially tracking alongside the maximum possible benefit. What this illustrates is intentional design. The proposal is not structured to significantly affect people who are at or near the maximum benefit today. It is calibrated to affect future retirees, those further down the road who, as wages continue to rise and Social Security benefit calculations adjust accordingly, may qualify for benefits that more clearly exceed the cap threshold. Policy analysts estimate that if this cap solution were implemented and fully phased in, it could generate an additional $100 billion in savings to the Social Security trust funds over roughly a 10-year period. That is a meaningful contribution to solvency, though not a complete solution on its own. Other proposals currently being discussed. The benefit cap is just one idea being considered. Let me briefly walk through 4 other reform proposals that are actively circulating right now, because understanding the full menu of options gives you a clearer picture of where this may be headed. Proposal 1. Raising or eliminating the payroll tax cap. Right now, the Social Security taxable wage cap is $184,500 in 2026. Any income you earn above that threshold is not subject to Social Security payroll taxes. So a person earning $500,000 annually only pays Social Security taxes on the first $184,500 of that income. One proposal would simply raise this cap significantly above its current level. Another, more aggressive version would eliminate the cap entirely, meaning all earned income, regardless of amount, would be subject to Social Security taxes at the standard 6.2% employee rate matched by the employer, or 12.4% for the self-employed. It is worth noting that there is no equivalent cap for Medicare taxes. You already pay Medicare taxes on every dollar of income you earn with no ceiling. A similar structure for Social Security is what this proposal would create. This feels like one of the more politically viable options. Some version of raising the cap, even if not eliminating it entirely, seems quite likely to happen in some form. Proposal 2. Gradually raising the full retirement age. For people born in 1960 or later, the current full retirement age is 67. Many policy discussions are centering on gradually increasing that to 69 over time. Here is the practical impact of that change. Your primary insurance amount, the benefit you receive at full retirement age, would stay mathematically the same, but your full retirement age would now be 2 years later. That means if you claim at what used to be full retirement age, 67, you would now be claiming 2 years early. And each year of early claiming currently reduces your benefit by approximately 6%. So claiming at 67 under a full retirement age of 69 would mean a permanent 12% reduction in your monthly check. The mechanism here is straightforward. Push the full retirement age later, and the system effectively pays out less money over the course of recipients' lifetimes. Proposal 3. Changing the COLA formula. Social Security's annual cost of living adjustment, the COLA, is currently calculated using something called the CPI-W. That stands for Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. It tracks a basket of goods and services from the third quarter of one year to the third quarter of the next. Whatever increase appears in that basket is the percentage applied to Social Security checks the following January. Historically, that averages somewhere around 2.5% to 3% per year. One proposal under discussion is shifting to what is called the chained CPI. The concept behind the chained CPI is that when prices rise, consumers naturally substitute less expensive alternatives. They swap one product for a cheaper version rather than absorbing the full price increase. The chained CPI attempts to measure this substitution behavior, and because it accounts for consumers trading down, it typically registers inflation at a slightly lower rate. In practical terms, switching to the chained CPI would reduce annual Social Security cost of living adjustments by approximately 0.2% to 0.3% per year compared to the current formula. That may sound negligible, but applied across 10 to 20 years of retirement, the compounding effect on cumulative benefits is substantial, and the savings to the trust funds would be equally significant. Proposal 4. Adjusting the benefit calculation formula itself. Remember the bend points we walked through earlier? 90% of the first tier, 32% of the second, 15% of the third? Those percentages are not fixed by nature. Congress could modify them. For example, instead of 90% of the first tier, the formula might be changed to 85%. Instead of 32% in the middle tier, it could become 30%. Instead of 15% at the top, perhaps 10%. Each of those adjustments, applied across millions of benefit calculations, would reduce the overall amount flowing out of the trust funds, while keeping the overall structure of the benefit formula intact. This is a quieter, less politically visible form of benefit reduction than raising the retirement age or cutting COLA, which may make it somewhat easier to implement without generating significant public backlash. What is most likely to actually happen? Looking at all of these proposals together, here is an honest assessment. Some version of raising the payroll tax cap feels like one of the more probable outcomes, whether that means a substantial increase above $184,500 or eventually eliminating the ceiling altogether. It raises revenue without directly cutting benefits for current recipients, which makes it politically easier to advance. A gradual increase in the full retirement age also appears to have meaningful momentum. Moving from 67 to 69 over a phased transition period would significantly reduce long-term benefit obligations without requiring immediate cuts to anyone currently receiving benefits. The benefit cap, the six-figure limit that prompted this discussion, would have very limited impact on current retirees and even on most high earners today. Its real effect would be felt by future retirees, particularly as wages continue rising and more people qualify for higher benefit amounts. Over a 10-year horizon, it could contribute $100 billion in trust fund savings, meaningful but not sufficient as a standalone solution. What is most likely, in my view, is some combination of these approaches rather than any single reform being enacted in isolation. The math of Social Security solvency is difficult enough that no single lever solves it completely. A package of moderate reforms spread across revenue increases, retirement age adjustments, and perhaps modest formula changes is the path most likely to achieve both political viability and actuarial impact. For those of you who are currently receiving Social Security or approaching retirement in the near future, the most important takeaway from all of this is that the immediate threat to your current benefits is relatively limited. The proposals being most seriously discussed are designed to phase in gradually and target future benefit levels rather than cutting what people are receiving today. But for those of you who are decades away from retirement, particularly younger, higher-income workers, the landscape of Social Security may look meaningfully different by the time you reach claiming age. The six-figure cap, a higher retirement age, and adjusted benefit formulas could all combine to produce a lower guaranteed benefit than current projections suggest. That makes building your own retirement savings, independent of Social Security, more important than ever, Do not build your entire financial plan around a number that legislation may change before you get there. Stay informed. These conversations are moving quickly, and understanding how the system works, including the mechanics we walked through today, puts you in a far better position to plan around whatever changes ultimately come.